The first punch wasn't thrown with a fist, it was thrown with laughter. Sharp, careless, and loud enough to cut through the soft clink of coffee cups and the low hum of a rainy afternoon cafe. Heads turned. A child flinched. And a tired single dad, sitting alone by the window with a paper cup and a worn backpack at his feet, felt something inside him tighten. Not fear, not anger, but a familiar, aching shame he thought he'd buried years ago. Before the story goes any further, take a second right now. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in judging people by their hearts instead of their appearances, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. The cafe was the kind of place that tried hard to feel warm. Soft lights, indie music humming in the background, the smell of roasted beans and cinnamon drifting through the air. But warmth is fragile when cruelty walks in wearing confidence. The bully hadn't meant to pick a fight that day. He was just loud, well-dressed, and bored. The kind of man who filled space without asking permission. He laughed too hard at his own jokes, slapped the counter when he spoke, and looked around constantly to see who was watching. His eyes landed on the single dad by the window. The dad looked ordinary to the point of invisibility, mid-30s, maybe early 40s. Broad shoulders slouched forward, as if trying to take up less room in the world. A faded hoodie stretched over a body that once knew discipline but now carried exhaustion. His hands were rough, knuckles scarred, fingernails trimmed short out of habit rather than care. A small paper bag sat on the table, inside it a half-eaten muffin and a napkin folded neatly, saved for later. Every dollar mattered when you were raising a child alone. The bully's laughter turned sharper. He made a show of gesturing toward the dad, mocking the cheap clothes, the old phone, the way the man counted coins before paying. Each remark landed like a pebble at first, irritating but survivable. Then they came faster, louder, crueler. The cafe grew quieter, not because people agreed, but because they didn't want to be next. Silence can be its own kind of cruelty. The single dad kept his eyes on the table. He had learned long ago that pride was expensive. He had a daughter waiting at school, a rent payment due, and a life that didn't allow for public scenes. He told himself it would pass. It always did. Bullies fed on reaction, and he refused to give them what they wanted. But inside him, memories stirred. There had been a time when he didn't lower his gaze for anyone, a time when his posture was straight, his mind razor-focused, his body honed by years of training most people could never imagine. A time when fear was something he studied, not something that owned him. That life felt like it belonged to another person now, buried under grocery lists, parent-teacher meetings, and nights spent staring at the ceiling wondering if he was doing enough. The bully stepped closer, invading the small space between tables. The laughter grew, and someone finally whispered that it was too much. The bully waved it off, emboldened by the attention, mistaking restraint for weakness. He leaned in, close enough that the single dad could smell expensive cologne and arrogance. Something shifted. Not outwardly, not yet. But deep inside the dad's chest, a switch flipped. Not rage. Control. The kind of calm that only comes from training drilled into bone and muscle, from situations where mistakes cost lives. His breathing slowed, his shoulders relaxed. His awareness expanded, taking in exits, distances, the weight and balance of the man in front of him. The bully reached out, poking the dad's shoulder, crossing a line he didn't even know existed. What happened next was fast, precise, and completely silent. The single dad stood up, not with aggression, but with purpose. His movement was fluid, economical, as if his body remembered something his mind had tried to forget. In one smooth motion, he redirected the bully's hand, stepping inside the man's balance, guiding him, not throwing him, down and away from the table. The bully stumbled, shocked, more than hurt, finding himself disarmed off-center, and suddenly aware that he was not in control. The cafe froze. No punches were thrown. No dramatic violence. Just a brief, unmistakable display of skill so clean and efficient, it didn't need explanation. The kind of movement that comes from elite training, where every action is measured, every second accounted for. Delta Force legends were built on that kind of discipline, though no one in the cafe knew the name for what they'd just seen. They only knew it wasn't normal. The single dad stepped back immediately, hands open, posture non-threatening. He adjusted his hoodie, picked up his backpack, and looked around the room. His expression wasn't angry. It was tired, deeply bone-weary tired. He nodded once, a silent apology to the stunned barista, then turned toward the door. The bully didn't laugh anymore. In the days that followed, the moment replayed itself across social media. Someone had been filming, of course. There always was. The clip went viral, stripped of context, slowed down and analyzed by strangers who argued over what kind of training the man must have had. Some called him a hero, others called him dangerous. Very few asked who he was. No one asked why a man with that level of discipline was counting coins for coffee. The single dad's life didn't change overnight. He still woke up early to pack lunches, still worked long shifts at a job that paid less than it should, still helped with homework at the kitchen table, fighting exhaustion so his daughter wouldn't see how tired he was. But something subtle had shifted inside him. Not pride, permission. He had spent years believing that his past disqualified him from a quiet life, that the things he had done and seen meant he deserved to fade into the background. That humility meant shrinking. That strength was something to hide. The cafe incident forced him to confront a harder truth. Strength didn't disappear just because life got heavy. It waited. And it could exist alongside gentleness, alongside fatherhood, alongside a man trying to do right by a small human who believed he hung the moon. People started recognizing him, not often and not always comfortably. A nod at the grocery store. A thank you muttered by someone who had once been bullied themselves. One afternoon, a man approached him at a park, a veteran who recognized the movement, the posture, the restraint. They didn't talk long. They didn't need to. Shared experience rarely requires explanation. The biggest change came quietly. The single dad began standing a little straighter. Not in defiance, but in acceptance. He started volunteering at his daughter's school, teaching basic self-defense workshops, focusing not on fighting, but on awareness, confidence, and restraint. He told the kids that the strongest people were the ones who knew when not to use their strength. Parents listened. Some cried. A few saw their own stories reflected back at them. The bully from the cafe never appeared again. But the echo of that laughter lingered, transformed now into something else. A reminder of how easy it is to mistake kindness for weakness, how dangerous it is to underestimate quiet people carrying invisible battles. As the months passed, the viral clip faded, replaced by the next outrage, the next spectacle. The internet moved on, as it always did. But in one small household, something permanent had taken root. A daughter watched her father with new eyes, not because he had moved like a legend, but because he showed her what dignity looked like under pressure. Near the end of this story, take a moment with me. If this journey stirred something in you, if it reminded you of your own quiet strength or the unseen weight someone you love carries, please like this video, share it, and leave a heartfelt comment. It truly helps more stories like this reach people who need them. And before the final moments fade, here's a special request. Comment the word strength if you believe the most powerful people are often the quietest ones in the room. The single dad never talked about Delta Force. He never corrected assumptions or chased recognition. His legend wasn't in what he did that day in the cafe, but in what he chose every day after. To show up, to stay gentle, to protect without becoming hard. And in a world addicted to noise, that kind of strength doesn't just move like a legend, it changes lives.